Hi there, everyone. I'm just checking real quickly that I have my computer and phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay, happy Friday. How are you? I've had a good week. Very busy, very productive. Got in a little time with my sister and brother-in-law and niece yesterday. Of course, I'm getting fun pictures of Riley every day, and I'll be there tomorrow. Gonna take a meal over to them and spend the day with all of them, but they're doing great. And still, being a grandma is the best thing ever. As much as I thought it would be, and even more. So, and thank you to all you who have congratulated me and my family in one way or another with a card, a text, a message, an email. I certainly appreciate that. And please know that it means a lot to me. And I've been sharing those comments and cards and things with Andrea and John as well. Okay, the last Facebook Live, we used the Sweet Citrus bundle, which we'll be using again today. You know, that's the bundle that has the Hybrid Embossing Folder with it. So it's a stamp set, a die set, and the Hybrid Embossing Folder. And we'll be using that today. In the last Facebook Live, and these are not posted to stampinpiece.com. I was hoping to have it done before this afternoon, but it will probably be later this evening or even tomorrow morning. But we made this fun drink bottle, water bottle treat. We covered and decorated this, I guess it's like a lemon bar, what's it called? Luna bars, protein bars, lemon flavored. And then we made this pretty card. So that video is here on Stampin' Piece with Mary Nave, but like I said, when I get it posted to stampinpiece.com, then you'll get all of the measurements for cutting and scoring, the supply list, everything. And that's always helpful. And that's why I like to direct people to my website and blog, because that's where you get the most information, the replays of the Facebook Lives, the photos of the projects. That's pretty all-inclusive for those of you that are here for project ideas, which I think most of you are. Today, we are going to be making cards with limes. We have a lime theme going. There's another one, and here's the third one. And you're going to have so much fun with this demonstration. You're going to want to be making these cards too, and you might have so much fun with these sweet lime cards that you'll want to break out a margarita and have some chips and salsa tonight. That always sounds like a fun summertime treat to me. Anyways, let's get, two reminders. Today is the last day of June, June 30th. Our 2 June promotions end today at 11:50 p.m. Mountain Time. That is the 15% off Designer Series paper and also the Starter Kit Plus promotion. So you can purchase that awesome deal of $155 of product of your choice and pay just $99 plus tax. It ships free. And then if you decide to stay on as a demonstrator, you'll enjoy a 20% discount with the option to do more if you want to. But if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. You can be a discount shopper, hobby demonstrator, whatever you want to call it. But I welcome everybody to my team. We're a fun bunch and we love to share creativity, so and friendships too. So if you are interested in that, I would be happy to talk to you today, or you can sign up through my website, stampinpiece.com. All right, I'm going to flip my camera around to my workspace and then we'll get started on today's cards. While I'm doing that, please share this video so that others can join us as well. Okay, I'm just going to slip my glasses on here and we are ready to go. Now, recently, well, I should say it's probably been several weeks, April, maybe early May, I showed you how to make a stencil by die cutting a piece of cardstock and then using that stencil and a blending brush and ink pad to create a colored center for your card. We're going to be doing something similar, but if you remember when we did that, the piece that because we were using the negative space, we were using the stencil part that we die cut. If you remember, I said, I put the actual die cut piece aside and I said, I'll use that for another project in the future. Well, I decided today that we would make 2 cards using the actual die cut piece and that negative, which forms the stencil. But then as I got to playing, I thought, oh no, I'm going to show you how to make 3 cards doing that. So we're going to die cut some soft seafoam cardstock. I've got 2 pieces that measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I'm using the largest Stylish Shapes square from that die collection. That's the one that has all the nesting circles, squares, and banners. I'm using the largest square. And with this, I'm going to actually cut out the square. And basically when I'm setting it on my cardstock, I'm setting it in a way that the top, bottom, and one end have equal spacing around the square. And then from doing this, we're actually going to be making 3 cards, 3 standard size greeting cards. Now in the cards today, there is a lot happening. Lots of pieces and parts, lots of stamping and die cutting. Do not fret. I'm not going to keep you here 3 hours. I have pre-stamped and pre-die cut several things, but I'm going to still show you how to use that Sweet Citrus Hybrid Embossing Folder. So you'll know all of the steps. You'll know how to do everything. But I won't overwhelm you or use up your time by doing all the stamping and die cutting of all the pieces. But trust me, it is worth it. Okay, I'm going to hold these 2 pieces of cardstock in place with a couple of Post-it notes. One thing I want to note is we'll be using this to make 1 card. We'll be using the stenciled piece that will get the ink to make another card. And we'll also be using this to make a card. So I am going to, because I want this nice stitch detailing to show on that card, I'm going to flip this over and work from the back side because I don't care if I'm getting ink on the back side of that piece. Whoops, they're sticking together. I like to push those right up against the corner and have them sticking to my scrap paper as well. So I'm using, well, I guess I could have pulled out a large blending brush, but I guess I already have this one out. So you know that when we use our blending brushes with ink pads, we just swirl along the top of the ink pad. We start swirling on cardstock and then we move, or on scrap paper, and then move over to the cardstock. I'm going to do a little bit more. Just want it to be a little bit darker than it is. You can pretty much make this as light or as dark as you want. And I am doing tone on tone. I'm using the soft seafoam ink pad and putting the ink onto soft seafoam cardstock. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And we're finished with that. So let me show you what we have now. So that's what I'm going to use to make my first card. I flipped my stencil back to the front side. This will be used for my second card, and I'll use the die cut square for the third card. And let me just move these out of the way so we don't have a mess. And I just realized I forgot to cut my card bases, but that's okay. We can do that really fast. And then this will be a good reminder too, or if people don't already know this. Obviously, you can cut 2 card bases from one piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock to make the A2 cards. So that's measurements in the US. Metrics are a little bit different. So I scored once and I cut once. And typically, you've heard me say before, I often make 2 cards. And even if I don't, I'm still cutting 2 card bases at once. Okay. Now we're ready to go. Alrighty. So, as I said, I have die cut, stamped and die cut a lot. I even made my 3 bows from the linen thread, but I do want to show you how to use that hybrid embossing folder so that you get, so that you know how it works. Because what makes it a hybrid embossing folder as opposed to just a regular one is that it will die cut and emboss at the same time. So the first thing I need to do is stamp. Here's a tip too. As I was preparing, I just cut a piece of white cardstock so that it measures 4 1/4 by 11 inches. Cut it in half in a vertical position. You can fit the 3 largest stamps on here very easily to make all 3 cards. And I'm sure you've heard me say before, actually I'm going to go this way so that I'm stamping on the end closest to me. You've heard me say before that if you can do things in like an assembly line style, if you're making more than one of something, you're actually saving yourself time by doing each of the steps repeatedly before moving on to the next step. And I'm just going to do this once because, like I said, I already have the others prepared. But for stamping the outlines of the limes, I used Granny Apple Green. To stamp the inside of the fruit, I'm using Parakeet Party. Now, if you don't have this, you can easily, or you have one or the other, you can stamp the outline, and then for the inside of the limes or whatever fruits you're making, you can stamp off and then stamp onto the cardstock. So you'll still get 2 shades. And then I'm just going to line this up. And we have that, you know, the white flesh of the fruit. So it's easy to get it in there and to see if it's centered, which I love that. Helpful. And then before I show you how to die cut this, And you probably can't see this on the sample, but I colored these fruits just very quickly with some Wink of Stella. If you're not familiar with Wink of Stella, it's kind of like, works like a paintbrush, but it's got a very soft shimmer. And that's all you're doing. You're not adding glitter, you're adding a shimmer. It's completely flat, it's very subtle, super quick and easy to do. But it just gives it a fun little wow factor, I'll say. And I know lots of you like bling. I guess you could put this in the bling category, but it's much, much more subtle than that. And then on the full lime, I'm just gonna do just a few of the areas. Same thing on this half lime. And I'm also just taking the tip of my Wink of Stella and going all the way around the fruit. And don't worry if you're not on the line perfectly. Trust me, it all works out. And this is the clear Wink of Stella. That's the only one we sell. And because it dries clear, you're not going to tell if you go off the lines a little bit. So no need to stress about that. And just to make it a little bit easier, in the Hybrid folder or Stampin, whatever, the die is embossing folder, I'm going to cut the excess off. So this is probably dry now. Wink of Stella dries pretty quickly. So this is your Hybrid Embossing Folder. This die comes from the die set in the Sweet Citrus bundle. All right, so there's three main parts of this bundle: the stamp set, the die set, and the embossing folder. Now, to use this embossing folder to die cut and score at the same time, you're going to insert this large die and it will fall right into the grooves. Like now it's sliding all over, but if I've got it in the grooves, it pretty much stays there. Okay, and then I'm going to just lay this. Don't worry about lining up the stamped images with the dies yet. Just take it and flip it over. And notice that when I inserted that die, I did it on the side with the Stampin' Up! Logo, okay? If you're trying to fit it on the other side, it won't work. So think of that Stampin' Up! Logo as your guide as to where to place the die. And then I just slowly move that cardstock around. Can you see that? I just move that cardstock around until I feel like I've got everything nicely lined up. And that looks good. So I'll go ahead and close it now. And then I need to run this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And when you're using a 3D embossing folder or a hybrid embossing folder like this, you're going to use plate number 1 and then plate number 4 on top. And I'll just run that right through and prepare to be amazed. There are some things I never get tired of. Heat embossing, it still is like magic to me. And hybrid embossing folders. Now look at this when I pull it out. Oops, where'd that piece go? Oh, here it is, popped out. But let me pick these up so you can see them a little more clearly. So you can see the 2 shades of ink that I used. You can probably pick up a little bit of sparkle with that Wink of Stella, but do you see all the texture in the pieces? It looks amazing. Like you can actually see the pulp, right? Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you with that. So now you all know how to use that hybrid embossing folder. Heidi, you love it too. Do you have it? Or Holly, not Heidi, Holly. Holly's on my team, so she may have that. Yes, love the texture of the folder. Absolutely. So let's put our card together now. Before I add my pieces, I do want to stamp a sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that in Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to use this one, Sending You a Big Squeeze. And I put it towards the upper right corner, as you can see. And now I'm going to add, oops, I want to do one other thing. I want to show you this little trick. Sometimes, think of the deckled rectangles. If you don't have those, which they give such a nice look, and I use them a lot, and you've seen me demonstrate with those. But sometimes I want something that's more of a worn look, what do I want to say, like shabby chic, something that looks a little aged. And what I'll do is just run the open blade of my scissors, my paper snips, along the edges. You can even curl some of the corners if you want. You can do this even more. Be more or less subtle. It does not harm the blades of your paper snips all the time or anytime. I've used my paper snips for that purpose a lot. So you're not damaging your paper snips in any way. So now I'm ready to add my pieces. I'm going to start with all the line pieces. And I like to start with the largest pieces first. I want to make sure I don't cover up my sentiment. Do something like this, I guess. I think like more like that. And then this full one, I'm just going to kind of tuck right there. Okay, I've die cut 3 pairs of leaves, and I'm going to add those next. The leaves were stamped with garden green. Okay, leaves were stamped with garden green. Of course, you can pick your favorite greens, or you can use other colors. You could make pink grapefruits or oranges or lemons. So I love the versatility of this set. Oops, I don't want to go right there. It's covering my sentiment a little too much, and I don't want to do that. I'm actually going to move these over just a bit and move this up a wee bit higher. There. Just want to make sure I'm not covering that sentiment. And here. You can kind of think of the leaves and the flowers that we're adding to these cards as your embellishments. So think of them in terms of odd numbers, 3, 5. Now, here's something I want to show you. This is a fun little trick. I'm first going to stamp the centers of my flowers. Now, to make these, all I did was cut a bunch of flowers from white cardstock. You can stamp them with the coordinating stamp, but I didn't do that. I just wanted bright white flowers with a yellow center. So I just die cut those from my basic white cardstock without stamping them at all. But I do want to put a yellow center in. So in the stamp set, there's one large center and then there's two small centers that are attached. So if you are stamping the flowers, you could stamp the two centers of those small ones together and then stamp the large, okay? That's why they're attached. So I'm just going to tap in the corner of my ink pad. Then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to stamp the center of the small flowers. And I'm only inking up the one flower center. I'm not inking both, so pay attention, and you just want to ink it up right on the corner of your ink pad. Okay, now I'm going to use that small tip again, that small center, and I'm going to go back over the centers and just make the color a little bit deeper. Okay. And if you wanted to use a larger center on your small flowers, just flip it over. Super easy. Now, here's the exciting part. 1 second. Here's the exciting part. You see me use my take your pick tool a whole lot. I actually have two. The reason being, the original, when you get your first take your pick tool, you're going to get the putty end. You get this one with the spatula and the piercing tool, that pointy tip. But then you're also going to get this, and it's got a stylus on each end, one a little bit larger than the other. And I don't like to take the time to switch them out, so I bought a second one, but that's okay because now I have my die brush on the other end. And we did get those new attachments, which I just got mine, and I'm hoping to play with those in the next few days so I can show you what those do. But I'm going to take the large end, the larger ball on my stylus, and I'm just going to push these flowers in the center into my Stampin' Pierce mat. So another great reason to own a Stampin' Pierce mat. You can add dimensions to your little flowers by doing just this. Some people will actually kind of do a circular motion, but for this purpose, I'm just pressing right into that Stampin' Pierce mat. I think these are $5 or $6, but you know, with photopolymer stamps, the ones that you see through, like this set is, it is best to stamp on something soft. It has some kind of cushion to it. So this, sometimes I'll use my silicone mat, but you do need something like this to do that technique. And then I'm just going to finish this card by adding some flowers. I'm going to add 2 large and 3 small. So I have an odd number. Some I'll add with mini dimensionals, and some I will add with our glue. I don't know where I want that, maybe here. Put a little drop of the multi-purpose glue there for this one. Hold it just a second. And then these last two I'll also do with mini glue or mini dimensionals. Let's put this one, let's do this right here, I think. And then lastly, I'm going to add a simple bow made from linen thread. I'm going to hold that in place for a moment with that clear stamping block. Oh, I got too many things here. Okay, hold that in place with the clear block while I score my cardstock. The base is soft seafoam, just like that 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece I started with. And then I'll add all of this to the center of the card front. I could have put the 5 1/4 by 4 piece on the card front before I added all the small pieces. That's up to you. But for some reason, when I made this card, I liked to build it on that separate piece and then put it on the card front. But either way works fine. Turn this a little bit because I don't want it to cover up the sentiment too much. All right, I'm going to set that aside. Of course, I will be giving away all 3 cards today, so stick around so you get the magic word to be entered into the drawing. So here's the second card. This is where we're going to use that stencil piece that I just lost sight of. Oh, come on, Mary. Okay, this is not good. Where is it? Does anybody see it? Is it like hiding in plain sight? There it is. Yes, pretty much hiding in plain sight. Got caught between the 2 die sets. So let's do this. I'm going to score my card base, and or I should say crease my card base, because it already has a score line. And I'm going to be using this stencil, but I do want to pop it up with dimensionals. But before I do that, I want to stamp my sentiment, and that's going to go inside. So I don't want to stamp it and then hope I've got it placed correctly. And I don't want to lift this up on dimensionals before I stamp, because then I have more chance of getting ink on this part. Another way to do that is flip this over to the back side. This makes it super easy. If you think of this, you can flip it to the back side, and then I'll be ready to stamp just like that. And once again, I'm going to stamp the sentiment in Granny Apple Green. I'm trying to look over the top here so I stamp straight. Hopefully you aren't getting the top of my head. Okay. See how that works out fine? And now my sentiment is perfectly placed. And I will add that frame or stencil piece to my card front. Putting some extra dimensionals on this time because I really want to be sure that the sides of that square are popped up evenly. So this is definitely more dimensionals than I would typically use on a 5 1/4 by 4 piece of cardstock, as you well know, I'm sure, from watching me. Okay, there we go. Just going to center this. That one dimensional wanted to stick before the others. Okay, all set. Now we're going to build out the rest of the card using our limes and our leaves and flowers. So here's where I did all that work ahead of time. Now, because we have this raised square, this kind of window, I'm going to tuck this large lemon slice in like that. So this one will get adhered with multi-purpose glue. Just like that. And these two, well, this one I'm going to lay flat. So part of it will, the majority of it will be on the upper layer. So on that part, I'm going to add some of my glue, my liquid glue, but on the left side, I'm going to have a dimensional because I do want it to be raised, and this is already raised, so I want it to even out with that. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to add this one with a dimensional as well. I'll put this one in the corner. And for the lime, I really don't know what happened to my silicone sheet. It was here. Well, that's okay. I just do it on a piece of scrap paper so I don't make a mess. So I'm just putting a dot of glue where those two leaves come together, and then I'm going to glue this, the top of the lime, right to that, and I'm going to use a mini glue dot then to attach one small flower. So now I'll add this whole item as one piece. I want it turned a little bit there. So again, part of it's going to be on the top layer, but another part, the larger part of it, is going to be on the card base itself. So I'm just going to attach that upper area with a dimensional. And then I'm just going to put a tiny bit of glue right here to catch the bottom of the lime. How about like this? I feel like this one I should want to move down, in which case I don't need that dimensional there. To me, it just seems a little high. I want things to kind of look balanced. All right, so now it's time to add 2 more pairs of leaves. Put this one right here. Notice too, when I'm adhering the larger pieces, I don't, except when I'm showing like this, I don't put adhesive all the way around the outside edges. And the reason for that is I like to be able to tuck the leaves under. I don't know, it just, for some reason, I like to do that. And that makes it a little bit easier to do if I'm not putting adhesive on the edges of my images. And so you see now what I mean about all the different pieces and parts. It is a lot, right? But I'm trying to do it in such a way that it's not overwhelming for you, because I really do want you to be able to make these cards without frustration. So the tips I'm giving you in terms of, you know, stamping and die cutting all at once, having all your pieces ready before you start actually putting your cards together with the sentiment and all the pieces. I'm going to do one more right up here with just a little dot of glue. Okay, and because we just put adhesive in the flower, in the center of the flower backs, that gives lots of dimension as well. In addition to us using our, I just forgot the name of it, the little ball thingy, stylus. And the very last thing I'm going to do, so you can see on all of these 3 cards, I'm using the exact same number of stamped and die cut pieces, stamped, die cut, and embossed pieces, I should say, since we're using that hybrid embossing folder. All the same colors. They all have a linen thread bow. Put that there. Does everybody know why I put that there? That clear block, that just holds the knot of the bow in place on top of that glue dot. So I don't have to hold it with my finger or worry about it moving around if it's not secured. And it just takes a few seconds like that. You can also roll up a mini glue dot and put that behind the knot, but I prefer to use that dot of glue with the linen thread because that knot is so small. All right, we have one more card to make. For this one, the first thing I'm going to do is stamp my sentiment. But before I start stamping, I want to kind of take a look at my placement of my pieces so that I know exactly where I want to stamp on this square. And I'm going to put this up here. It's kind of like that. It's going to have leaves and flowers. I'm going to have this here. Kind of doing the same layout on all of them too. So that just gives me a good estimate of where I have the space to stamp my sentiment. And I'm using Thanks a Bunch. And it'll go right there. So I'm going to ink up with Granny Apple Green again. I'm going to stamp right in there. Now I know for sure that I have my sentiment in a good spot and can build all the pieces around it. Oh, Nancy, yes, do rethink it. I bought this as soon as it came out, as soon as I saw it. But for different reasons, I did a lot of used a lot of other stamps and bundles before this. But I have to tell you, I love using this. And I have an idea that I'm hoping to get to today. I don't want to tell you about it, or not today, this weekend. A project, a little home decor project using this set. The idea just kind of came to me today when I was working down here. Okay, I think that looks good, pretty much in the middle. And again, I'm going to build the leaves and the flowers onto this lime. I just love the texture of it. I mean, I think that's what takes this set above and beyond, is all the texture. Now, of course, you don't have to use that embossing folder if you don't want to. You can just stamp and die cut the pieces, which I did use, which I did do the other day when I made the water bottle holder and that treat. And where is... Put this one right there. Now for this, I'm going to be having some of it, the left side, on the top layer on that square, and then the other side will go over the flat front of the card base. So again, to accommodate the raised and the unraised surfaces, I'm using a little bit of multi-purpose glue plus a dimensional. For this one, I'm going to have most of this slice of lime on the raised square, and then some hanging off as well. Okay. And same thing with this piece, the lime half. Dimensional at the near the bottom. And then I'm going to put some multi-purpose glue there. Does that make sense to you why I'm using the two different adhesives to kind of even out the layers of the limes? And finally, I'll do this small piece of lime. You all sure do know how to make a girl feel loved. I just glance up now and then at the comments, and it's, I don't know, it just makes me feel good. So thank you. I'm happy to know you enjoy watching these, and that you're picking up some fun tips and tricks to help you enjoy your crafting. And as soon as I finish this card, I'll lay out all of them for you so you can see all three together. And then I'm going to review some of those steps and tips to make this easy for you. Because it can be a little daunting if you're just trying to make all of these, but you're doing each piece separately, or each card separately, and then you have to do all the pieces, and then you move to the second card and do all the pieces again, stamping, die cutting, filling in the centers, that sort of thing. Kathy Kelly, that is a good question, because I was prepared at the end of this Facebook Live to let you all know that I am going to be changing my schedule, and through for July and August, I'm going to go down to 2 Facebook Lives a week. And the reason for that is kind of twofold. Spending more time with my family, the new grandbaby, that sort of thing. But also I'm wanting to do some other things in my business and just need a little extra time. So, but I'll still be blogging a lot. I'll be posting videos and tips and photos and all kinds of good things for you. So don't think I'm going away. And come September, I might go back to the 3. We'll see how that schedule works. So I think what I'm going to do is still do Mondays at 5. And then instead of Wednesday or Thursday, I'm going to do, or Wednesday and Friday, I'm going to do Thursdays at 2. Okay. And of course, if you miss a Facebook Live, you can always watch the replay of the video right here on Stampin' Piece with Mary Nabe. But then days after a live, I do post the video, photos of each of the cards, cutting dimensions, what else? And Stampin' Up! Products used, so that you have all of that information. Because that's the most important part. I want to make it easy for you to go back and make some of the cards that I've shared and that you were inspired by. Okay. Jan, you love the flowers. Okay, let me show you this. Let me show you this. So I said I was stamping and die cutting, and somebody called me. She's been a customer for quite a long time, and then I moved, she moved, that sort of thing. But she decided to take advantage of the starter kit plus promotion that was happening this month. So she's now a team member, and we talked for a bit. She's, I think, going to be a hobby demo, but she did say that she gives her cards away a lot as gifts, and people are now interested in making some. So I think she'll be stamping with friends. It'll be a nice thing for her. But anyways, so I was like die cutting and stamping, and I got a little carried away. And of course, you know, if I have something like this, I feel the need to use it. And I thought, why not just make a beautiful card with the flowers and the leaves? We don't have to use the fruit each time, right? We can make a pretty card with a sentiment and flowers and leaves just like that. So I'm glad you said that, Jan, because that was on my mind. And when it came up, when I got the light bulb, it was too late to put together another card. So maybe that'll be a post for next week. Anyways, here are the 3 cards. I'm going to give all of them away. I appreciate you all so much being viewers. And the word for today, or I said words, is Hybrid Embossing Folder. You can even write EF for embossing folder, but you need the word hybrid embossing folder. And again, hybrid means that the embossing folder has a coordinating die so that you can die cut and emboss your images at the same time. Okay, hybrid embossing folder. All right, my friends, it's been a great week here. I'm kind of missing my little granddaughter though, but I will see her tomorrow. Andrea and John said pictures to the family every day. So it's fun to get those, and I never know when they're going to pop up during the day. So that's been really fun. But I'm looking forward to spending some time at Andrea and John's tomorrow and getting in more baby snuggles. It'll be awesome. All right, you all have a great weekend. If you are planning to craft it all this weekend, I posted a free project sheet on stampinpiece.com today. So be sure and go there to get your free project sheet, stampinpiece.com. All righty. Take care, have a great weekend, and happy stamping.